Hi, you're on the Bible Forum. We're here every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern on Sunday nights, just for you. I want to talk to you tonight about the 5 ways pornography ruins relationships. It's another way of saying ruins lives. Pornography is being marketed as a relatively harmless activity, as long as it's between consenting adults. But time and experience has revealed that this behavior not only involves the person viewing the material, but others as well. It impacts the family. It impacts social life, employment. It impacts your relationship with God and every aspect of your life. The masculine pronoun is almost always used in talking about pornography because it's oriented toward the male of the species. I know women can get involved in this as well, but it's the male who most generally is hooked on this stuff. Ultimately, the harm done to a marriage relationship is one of the more devastating effects of pornography. Since marriage is the basic element of family, and family is the basic element of society, at least the way God designed it, we have to assume that this would be the focal point of Satan's attack. And pornography is one of his most powerful weapons to destroy marriages and lives. In testimony before the U.S. Senate, Jill C. Manning, a sociologist at Brigham Young University, said, quote, "The marital relationship is a logical point of impact to examine because it is the foundational family unit and a sexual union which is easily destabilized by sexual influences outside the marital contract." Research shows that pornographic use is a significant contributing factor in about half of all U.S. divorces. And there are at least 5 ways that porn will ruin that relationship. Number 1, it increases domestic violence. Viewing porn exposes a man to many acts of violence against women. And the women in these videos or whatever seem to enjoy it. One study reviewed scenes from 50 of the most popular pornographic movies, and the majority of the films showed verbal and physical abuse of the women in the scenes. Another study reports that 88% of the hundreds of scenes that were reviewed depicted violence toward women. And viewing all this violence can affect the brain of the viewer. According to the American Psychological Association, quote, "mirror neurons are a type of brain cell that respond equally when we perform an action and when we witness someone else performing the same action." So when a man watches porn, his mirror neurons fire, and he then may want to mirror those behaviors with his wife. And she should enjoy the violence of it all. Number 2, it increases the divorce rate. Using porn puts incredible pressure on a marriage. The man's secrecy alone and the reduced time that he has with his wife and his family. His need to be alone and the many other patterns of porn usage continually drive the couple apart. And sadly, the possibility of divorce increases. Pornography creates feelings of insecurity. Number 3. Perhaps the biggest victim of a man's porn usage is his wife. Realizing that her husband is spending countless hours looking at other women and at the same time avoiding her is emotionally crushing. Zach Douglas stated in Relevant magazine that, quote, some women are put in a position where they feel they must compete for sexual and emotional attention with the women in the porn their husbands watch. Excuse me. The fantasy women in pornography are portrayed as unrealistically sexually active, often because of plastic surgery, stage makeup, and digital editing. It is impossible for a real woman to match these fantasy women, which then can make your wife feel inferior and insecure. Additionally, B.J. Foster, Director of Content Creation for All Pro Dad, says a husband's porn use validates all the negative things his wife thinks about herself. If she only looked different, lost weight, was blonde, sexy, wore better clothes, or fit into the right size, are all the things that flood her brain and, more importantly, her heart. Ultimately, she feels like she's not enough. Fourthly, there's a decreased sexual satisfaction with your partner. Porn users typically have difficulty relating to or performing sexually with their partners. They have become accustomed to the impersonal relationships with women on the screen. Studies have shown that watching porn actually decreases a man's sexual pleasure. Some porn addicts even crave porn more than being with real women. Dr. Judith Reisman gives a compelling example in this excerpt from the award-winning Conquer series. She quotes Wesley Wiley of Debt to Life, saying, "The drug addict craves more, but the sexual addict craves different." In other words, a heroin addict wants more heroin, but a sex addict doesn't just want more sex, he wants different sex. The deception is that different will satisfy you. But of course, once you have what you've craved, you want something different. And that cycle never ends. And lastly, it creates feelings of worthlessness. Porn greatly affects a man's self-esteem. He feels the shame. He feels the guilt. He feels a sense of worthlessness. He knows he should be the head and leader of his family, but instead seeks isolation and limited interaction with them. Edward L. Winkfield from the Real Truth magazine said some make the mistake of seeing pornography as an innocent alternative to engaging in the extramarital affair. Yet studies of the brain have shown that the mind does not readily differentiate between the real and the imagined experiences. Therefore, to the brain, there is virtually no difference between viewing pornographic material and an actual sexual encounter with another person, especially when recalling the experience. The website entitled Only You Forever says if you believe marriage is the ideal place for two people to become profoundly intimate, which is the journey of a lifetime, and includes emotional, spiritual, and sexual intimacy, then pornography use has no place in that paradigm. Because to use porn is to say that the two of you are not enough. Pamela Paul, the author of Pornified, said men who were fans of pornography were reporting that their sex lives were damaged. They had trouble maintaining erections. They were having trouble having intercourse with their wives. Why? They simply could not enjoy real human sexuality anymore. These men had programmed themselves to only sexually cue to computerized commercialized pornography? Wouldn't it just be simpler to trust the Word of God and follow His instructions? We would if we loved God more than we love self.